Hey guys, this is KSB with Tape, and today you join me for episode 8 of KSB Outer Planets. Yes, it's always a little while between recordings of these. They just take a while and aren't exactly the first thing on my radar. But yeah, today we're going to deal with the Slate miner. If you remember from last episode, which is a while ago, so I'll forgive you if you don't, this kind of ran a little bit out of fuel. Well, ran low on fuel, so I'm just going to get it into orbit of Slate and then refuel it. We get this kind of, just such a beautiful shot of flying across these rings. I know I say this every episode, but I never tire of how just freaking awesome the rings look. But anyway, yeah, now I just need to get my encounter with Slate, which is pretty easy because, fortuitously, I already pretty much have an encounter in orbit from now, which is pretty good. I find that with with Sarnus and Jewel and things, it's just... I just always seem to really easily encounter loads of moons because there's so many. And that can be really advantageous because then you have to make less burns and things. Anyway, yeah, so just a matter of getting this into orbit. I am using all of my landing, well, pretty much all of my landing fuel to get into orbit of Slate because I just totally miss... Well, with the transfer stage, I think it was slightly underfueled anyway because I was like, that'll probably be fine. And then I did my burn really stupidly to get to Sarnus. So I wasted loads of fuel. Anyway, here we are at Slate. Always beautiful. I think the people who make the Outer Planets mod, I'm not entirely sure who it is. I'm not sure if the planets or anything come from Craig's Planet Factory, but anyway, they're doing a really nice job of making really nice looking planets. And I think maybe just at least one of these things should be added to the stock game. Maybe just Sarnus. I know that there was a plan for it originally to put more gas giants in, but I don't really know what happened to that. I'm not a developer. Anyway, this is nicely in orbit. Now we should refuel it. So, on the launch pad now, with one of my Saturn V style rockets with solid rocket boosters on the side. Yes, these are the biggest boosters you can get in the KW pack, and they are rather beautiful. I again, love the KW rocketry pack. I just love all of these mods so much. I'm not using that many. I think I'm using, like, literally 4 mods. The Outer Planets mod, KW rocketry, Kerbal attachment system now, actually, for refueling on surfaces, and MechJeb, because MechJeb is so useful, although the way I use it for getting my encounters with Slate, actually. We get this kind of annoying spin, so I was a little worried it would explode, but it didn't, so that's good. Yeah, there was actually a bit of... Because you can see that this is such a massive payload, and it's pretty much... it's quite a lot lighter than the lander, so I could have sent another lander, technically. Yeah, engine just exploded. That was kind of annoying. The boosters heated it up too much. I could have just sent another lander, basically, if I'd just used this rocket, maybe. Although it would have been too heavy. But basically, because this is such a massive thing. Oh, yeah. And I accidentally decouple it there instead of deploying the fairings. So a quick load later. But yeah, because this is such a massive payload, I could have just probably sent another better designed lander, but I thought this would be useful because it might also act as a backup transfer stage, which I'll explain a little more in a little bit. But yes, I was a little worried this wouldn't get into orbit because it's so heavy, it's about 130 tons, but the rocket performs admirably, even though the payload keeps flexing and making it almost impossible to stay on course. Yeah, and also because that the engine exploded on the main stage, I lost a little bit of delta V, but this gets into orbit quite nicely. Yeah, it is just one thing. There's a big bit of fuel on the top and a bunch of transfery stuff, like RCS and power generation and radiators. But yeah, it's got about 5,000 meters per second delta V, which is overkill to get to Sarnus, but I wasn't gonna risk it, obviously. And I'm using the airplane fuselages for the liquid fuel because obviously you don't need oxidizer for a nuclear engine. So yeah, I also haven't upgraded to 1.05 yet because I think I probably can, but I didn't want to have to. Just in case KW rocketry or something didn't work, it was just easy to stay on 1.04. But I guess for the next episode I probably will, which would have been really convenient because there's now smaller ISRUs and mining parts, which would have made this whole thing way easier because right now in 1.0.4 there's only really big miner parts which are really hard to send. Anyway, yeah, just making our burn. I'm doing this in a series of 2 burns so I don't make the same mistake as last time. I'm just going to burn off quite a bit of the delta V and get myself into a highly elliptical orbit, come back around, and then do the burn. finish off the burn. The maneuver node won't work, so I'll have to do it manually, but I am capable of that because I've been playing for so long. I kind of have an idea of how these things work. It's not really knowing exactly how all of the orbital mechanics work, although I have a fairly firm grasp on that now. It's more just kind of conjecture and knowing roughly how the game works. But yeah, this isn't going to be a perfect burn because this has such a low impulse. But it'll do the job, and I have so much delta V I can waste a little bit. And it's pretty efficient that I've done 2 burns anyway, so that's all good. Anyway, I will cut through this burn for the sake of your sanity and the length of this video. Oh yeah, there we go. That was weird. It didn't look like I cut there, but apparently I did. Good job editing me, that's what you want. Seamless editing. My editing is very rarely seamless. You can usually tell it's so crazy janky. But most of this actually isn't super cut out, except the transfer to Sarnus, obviously. And then, yeah, just another cut ahead, because this took a really long time until we're out in the sun and it looks very beautiful and all of that. And we're just pushing our apoaps above Joule, and then another cut for us finishing off our burn, putting our apoaps at the same height as Sarnus. And this is just way later around the sun, making my first correction, making myself just better on course to encounter Sarnus, and this is my plane change so that I'm in the same plane as Slate, because fortuitously again, I actually straight up have an encounter again when I get to Sarnus with Slate. Anyway, I'm at Sarnus now, making another correction to put myself on the same course as, on the same plane as Slate, so when I arrive at Slate I'm in the same plane as the miner, because, yeah. And then I'm going to do most of my Slate, although I already have an encounter with Slate, it's way more efficient to use Sarnus' gravity as a kind of, well, to use the Oberth effect around Sarnus to slow myself down, whereas I could have gone right to Slate, it would have been about 500 meters a second more delta V, so I decided to slow down around Sarnus, and then I still have an encounter with Slate, and I can slow down there and then get myself an orbit and things. So yeah, pretty seamless mission. It went very well, actually. It was just quite a nice hunk of spacecraft. But yeah, once this is all used up, it is still a functional spacecraft, and I think could be good for a backup transfer stage. If something goes wrong when I eventually send Pandora, my manned mission, this could be a very useful way of just getting back if I need that, or just for doing other missions around Sarnus, because it has so much delta V it could probably carry a lander around or something like that. I will be sending lots of equipment to Sarnus. I was going to just attach everything to the Pandora spacecraft, but because there's kind of delta V issues, I'm probably going to send another package of just equipment before it. I'm sending everything before I send the Pandora mission, so everything's all set up. Anyway, my encounter, my maneuver would actually put me going the wrong way around Slate, which is really not what you want, so I decided to, you know, make it less terrible and fix it. Anyway, yeah, and you can see it's quite not that much delta V to slow down and circularize, so yeah, let's just head out to Slate and make another course correction to be on the more on the same plane with the miner, but not totally. But yeah, pretty much. I mean, just burn south so that I'm not so inclined. Yeah. Also, if you remember from last episode, my scanner doesn't work because I didn't put an antenna on it because I'm a putz. So I still don't know where the ore is on Slate. So next episode, I'm gonna have to send another little scanner, and then I think I'm ready to start sending Pandora and its subsequent spacecraft. I think there will just be one other big Pandora-type spacecraft, which I'm going to try and build very quickly. So yeah, I'm just going to get myself a nice, just circularize, and you can see this encounter thing spinning around the planet. It's just, I just like watching that because although you get kind of paranoid because it starts to slow down and you don't want to totally miss. But anyway, I need to get myself on the proper course to, you know, on the proper plane, final plane change maneuver-ish, to actually get my encounter with the miner. Yeah, lots of little changes. I like to do lots of little burns rather than one big all-inclusive burn, because it gives me a lot of control, and I often mess up burns, so it's good to be able to change it. And also with very low amount of impulse and thrust, it's quite good to just be able to do like little burns. It's less painful. Anyway, now I'm on the right plane. I need to slow down some more because I'm still going incredibly fast, and then eventually go and find the miner. lots of still, just so many beautiful shots of of Sarnus. The same sort of beautiful shot effect can be achieved on around Joule. Like Joule Rise on lathe is always quite pretty because it's tidally locked. You just get this kind of changing of light effects on Joule. I think it was I think Macy Dean had some really nice ones in his older videos where he'd be on Joule and you could see like the sun hitting. He'd be on lathe even. You could see the sun hitting Joule from various angles. It was quite, I don't know, just kind of just nice looking. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of. I can't think of the word, so this probably sounds just like rambling, but. Well, I've totally forgotten it. So anyway, we are actually coming up to our encountering of the miner. I've actually left all of this in. This is just what all of this sort of kind of going from Sarnus to docking is actually one continuous sped up bit of footage. So you can kind of see my process of these kind of more complicated encounters where you kind of come in from somewhere completely different and then have to slowly make your way towards the spacecraft. It's probably not super helpful as a tutorial, but it might just kind of show you how I do it. You just basically want to encounter as slowly as possible, which is what I'm doing here, unlike NerdCubed in his videos where he tries to encounter as fast as possible to get his insurance money back or something. That was a good video, although he kind of missed. Also, apparently, even if he had knocked the two spacecrafts apart, they would have clipped through each other because they were going in opposite orbits, so they would have had a relative velocity of about 4,400 meters a second. Anyway, I've switched to the miner to get this docking port pointed towards the resupply probe, apparently, because oh yeah, I guess because the launch vehicle's technically the main spacecraft, because I always have a extra probe core in there, so I can control it from the launch vehicle, so it doesn't matter so much what the payload's doing. If it's wobbling around, you still have better control. So anyway, I'm just going to use RCS to move in. I have a lot of RCS thrusters and quite a lot of RCS fuel. And I actually have a surprising amount of delta V left. I have 800 meters a second. I thought I'd have less. I thought it would be kind of fine because it is a lot of delta V to go to Sarnus. It's just very, very far away. Pretty much the reason I didn't pick Erlem or whatever the hell they call Neptune to go to, because they're really, really far away. Although I might send a few missions there at kind of the end of this series. The main thing is getting a manned mission to Slate, I've decided. Because at first it was kind of exploration, and my Tecto mission kind of fell apart because everyone died. But yeah. Anyway, we are docked, and now we can start transferring fuel across. Lots of fuel tanks on this, and there is one drop tank just because landing something of this scale just sort of requires you to drop some of your mass. I kind of wish for this that I'd landed up on that tiny little rock in the middle of the rings and got the fuel from there, which I realized I kind of could have done, except I would have had to drop the tanks drop the drop tank, or it would have been crushed and I wouldn't have been able to mine. So that wasn't actually a very good idea. So yeah, the miner resupply probe was the best idea. Anyway, here is a little thing to finish off the video. Something I've been working on, my Sarnus ascent vehicle. Now, because it's built for Sarnus and not an atmospheric Kerbin, it doesn't take off this time. And then when I kind of think it's taking off, what it's actually doing is falling over. So then I kind of almost kind of ruin the spacecraft. But yeah, I need a vehicle to get off of Slate, basically. I think I just called it Sarnus. I've probably been doing that all throughout the video. I'm very sorry. But anyway, after taking a little bit of fuel out of it, I just wanted to see how it kind of performs. And it's doing pretty well. It just has a single engine, which is probably not great, because if it fails, I'm kind of screwed. Although, no, the descent vehicle, because of the way it works, it drops a bunch of tanks, so it's only for descent. And this has to go way before everything else, so it can fuel up. Otherwise, I would have just used this as the descent vehicle. But yeah, this is one of the main things I have to send to Sarnus first, along with maybe a few little exploration vehicles, a few probes maybe. Although if I've got some small probes, I might just put them on the Pandora spacecraft. But anyway, yeah, I'm just testing out how this lands. And it's pretty good. It's a single stage to orbit on Slate, I think. I might strap a solid rocket boost. Oh no, I've got to land it, so that would be very stupid. But because it's got to land and take off, I thought it probably best for me to just make it a single stage lander and takeoff vehicle. It's actually much easier to make a single stage to orbit on Slate, even though it has a very similar kind of gravitational pull to Kerbin, because there is no atmosphere, so you don't lose stuff to drag, you don't lose efficiency to atmosphere, and it does have slightly less gravity, which is nice. If Earth had a little less gravity, it would be way easier to do space, but as of right now, space is quite hard on Earth. I mean, for a decent vehicle, you get about 1 or 2% of your start mass to orbit, so yeah, not great. In Kerbal, it's a little better than that because it's much smaller. Anyway, I do decide that I want to try and perform the ultimate challenge and land this on the VAB, and I'm just going to cut through here because there was a lot of maneuvering and lining up, but you can see my kind of descent to the VAB. The greatest challenge, the test of any launch vehicle. The test of any vehicle. Can it land on the VAB? And if it can't, it is a failure, even if it is like a big old plane that needs to land on a runway. If it can't land on the VAB, it is not a real vehicle. This is how all vehicles are tested in KSP. But anyway, we are coming to the end of the episode, and I do actually manage to achieve this after a little bit of swaying, a little bit of messing up the throttle, and a little bit of almost running out of fuel. But here we go. Here's the touchdown, maybe? I don't really recall. This was a little while ago. Oh no, I take off a little bit more. But yeah, touchdown on the VAB. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're looking forward to the next episode where I'm actually probably going to land that miner once and for all and start really preparing my manned mission. But yeah, this has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.